Hello. Welcome back for today's edition of Pulse Academy Office Hour. And I'm going over the wrong shoulder here. Green screen still kind of trip me up a little bit every once in a while. I'm Ruth Inman, Director of Community Education for Social Media Pulse Community and Pulse Academy. And today, I'm really excited for our office hour discussion. We're going to have a panel discussion with people who work in various aspects of marketing communications, whether it's at an agency or a business, and bring a lot of background and a lot of context. And we are going to dive into the topic that when I put out on my personal social media channels, asking for requests and suggestions for topics for office hour, this one came up the most often. We're going to talk about analytics and reporting, the stuff that if you like it, you love it because it can inform what you're doing. It can help make you better. It can help verify that the work that you're doing as a social media marketer does affect ROI and does affect the bottom line. But if you don't like it, it is a beast, and it can be really, really hard to learn how to learn what's important. And we get a lot of numbers. We're not short of numbers when it comes to any kind of reporting tool that we have available to us, whether it's native tools in a platform or if we've got special analytic tools to help us. We're not short on data, but where we might fall flat is figuring out what is important to us and what reports we really need to run and how often we need to run them and all those things. So, really excited for today's discussion. If you have specific questions about what reports and analytics are important, you can go ahead and drop into the comments. And specifically, what you can do today is you can visit socialmediapulse.info/office-hour, or if you're working on a desktop monitor and you've got a phone that you can scan and use that QR code, that's going to take you directly into the Social Media Pulse community. I see Deb is in the community there helping community manage, like the community manager extraordinaire that she is. I think Paul is going to be in the community. So we'll have a discussion with directly in Social Media Pulse community, as well as I'll be monitoring comments that come in on social. Okay, so leaving that up there for a few more seconds in case you want to go ahead and scan that or go ahead and type that URL into your browser, socialmediapulse.info/office-hour. All right. So without further ado, I am going to introduce our panelists. We have 3 panelists today, the first of which, Lee Goff. He is the marketing agency coach, and he's a member of our Social Media Pulse Advisory Board. So the advisory board helps us out with advice about trends that we need to be looking for and things that will be valuable to the Social Media Pulse community. And Lee's a really valuable member of that. Also, I know has been really, really active and helpful in the past with our agency chat, Twitter chat, that Deb has lots of great things to say about when Lee has participated in that before. But a little bit more about Lee. He first started his agency, Get You Wired, in 2003, and he grew that to a multi-million-dollar agency before he retired in 2016 to pursue his passion of leading, guiding, mentoring, and encouraging other entrepreneurs. So glad to have you with us here today, Lee.
Thank you, Ruth. I'm so proud to be here.
Yeah. Next up, Vanessa Wiebe. I'm going to go ahead and hide that logo there. All right. Vanessa is a marketing specialist, and she's the website coordinator for AFR Insurance, where recently she's been promoted and she oversees the entire marketing department there. She's an Oklahoma farm girl. We have that in common. Northwest Oklahoma, to be specific. She's an Oklahoma farm girl. She enjoys traveling with her basset hound Fitz, and I have seen pictures of Fitz, and he's adorable. Enjoying great food and playing the cello. So thanks so much for joining us today, Vanessa. And finally, last but certainly not least, Nell Kemp. And she is a branding and digital strategist at Cultivate agency. And Katie has directed nationally award-winning events, branding campaigns, social media for more than 15 years, working in that marketing and communications realm, primarily with agricultural brands. We were talking a little bit about the agricultural communication niche before we started the call today. Again, something that we have in common. And with an open perspective and eye on trends, she helps bridge communication between brands and their audience in creative, sometimes unconventional ways. In her spare time, you can find Katie outdoors behind the camera, working cows on her family's ranch, or in the kitchen where she really excels. So glad to have all three of you here with us today. Very, very excited. All right. Well, let's just dive in because that's how things get done is we just have to dive in and do it. So the first question that I want to ask, and I'm going to do it in the order that I introduced you here. I'm just going to ask for your specific organization, and the organizations that we have represented today are different, but for your specific organization, what metrics are most important to you? And I know this is one we could talk about for a long time, but if you could kind of summarize maybe 2 or 3 things that are the most important to your organization. Lee, what is that for you?
Well, I think it is hard to just distill this down to just one or two kind of thing. But I picked one for the sales and marketing side, and also picked one for the operation side. So, on the sales and marketing side of your agency, you must track your lead sources. You got to know where your money's coming from. Right? You have to track your lead sources, and the part that everybody has a tendency to overlook is associating it back to the revenue. If you don't have a good smooth running CRM kind of system, it'd be a little bit of a pain in the butt. But I'm just telling right now, it is critical to associate that revenue back to the specific lead source. Therefore, you can lean into the lead sources that are leaning into you per se, right? Generating revenue for you. Always a good idea. A lot of people assume they know where their money's coming from, but when you dive into the numbers, a lot of times it can be a little bit different than you might think. On the operations side of your agency, you must track total cost to deliver every single project. I mean, no matter how big or small, you must track your it's called cost of goods sold in our world. It's labor, software, and license, right? But cost of goods sold, and you must know how much how much your goods cost, right? This includes your billable hours, comp hours, software fees, administrative time, credit card processing, everything. Most agencies really have no idea how profitable individual projects, not just the agency, but individual projects are. And typically when you dive into this kind of an exercise I do with my students, there's usually 2 or 3 projects that are just absolutely kind of profit leaking that are really hurting your agency, right? So when you do this exercise, you'll probably isolate a couple of projects that you instinctually already probably know that you might want to get rid of because it's going to make a big difference in the overall project of your agency. Sorry, profitability.
Okay, hearing you say projects that you might want to get rid of. So that's something we might loop back to in a moment is, when do you maybe fire a client, things like that. But the topic at hand today is analytics. So I won't go off on a tangent right out of the gate, but that's something that got my my brain spinning there for a minute. Vanessa, I think you were next on the intro list. What metrics are really important to you at AFR Insurance? What are you looking at when you're looking at social media metrics, or even more broadly across all marketing? What is important to you?
Yeah, across the entire company, we're an insurance company, so the bottom line and the money that you're bringing in is huge. So I'm always asked, okay, what's your ROI for this project? And then being able to follow that up once the project is halfway through or under or over, then always saying, okay, did we hit that ROI? Did we not? As far as social media, though, the biggest tool that we have is our website. So any and all website analytics, whether that's our leads, whether that's customer service for current customers, how are we doing there? All of our website analytics are hugely important to us from a marketing department, because then we use that across the rest of the channels of AFR Insurance, from sales, customer service, even to our claims department. So we really hone in on our website, but then we use social media to get people there. So tracking those clicks, tracking those shares, making sure that we can really paint a holistic view from a social media account all the way through the website to conversion, and then wherever they go from there.
All right. Yeah, I'm seeing a theme here, right? We're looking big picture, bottom line, really important. But I'm sure as we talk throughout the day today, we'll get into some of the nuances, and there's obviously some minutia in that as well. And that's the beauty of the metrics and the beauty of all the data. We can get into that in a little bit. Katie, what about for you? Working at an agency, working with clients. Anything different, maybe specifically about the social media metrics that you're reporting back to clients every month, or just broadly speaking, what's important to you at Cultivate Agency when you're looking at metrics?
Yeah, so I would definitely go the ROI metrics. Obviously, those are important because, billable hours and our clients, et cetera. However, from what we do Cultivate social media versus our clients is going to be different. And part of that goes into what is your client strategy and what is their goal. Some clients who aren't actually selling a product, but the niche and the nuance that you have clients who are just extremely trying to bridge a kind of table. And so they're not selling a product, they're advocates. So in a client like that, where we create content and we create conversations and positive movement, I'm actually going to go in and track share rates, right? And that virality in the amp, because I want that content more than anything shared, because I want conversations. So when you can track your amplification rates and those types of things. So that's important to that client. I have to run campaigns, and kind of like they talked about, what is the conversion rate? What is the click-through rate? Especially now with the way that like Facebook is downgrading external links. Do we need to shift that to a type of campaign where we're capturing emails, or we're going to do a follow-through campaign versus just a straight click-through? So I'm looking at those numbers based off our overall goals, strategies, and it really changes client by client for us as an agency, because again, we have very distinct campaigns trying to sell a product or service, and those analytics and metrics are very much different than clients who want to create conversation and space online and grow awareness, right? Mm-hmm. So ours vary and different. Some we go in and monthly. On others, it's more of a quarterly basis. Again, that's based off budgets. I think we'll probably get into that. I don't want to get off topic, but there are so many tools out there for analytics, but also what fits in your out there also plays a role into how much you can report, how frequently you can report. Are you tying up hours and space? Because if your overall goal is for me to get out there and create conversations, then we're going to put the basics on reporting analytics and spend a lot of our time and hours getting the content created. And so that's an agency that really changes the dynamics, is what is the client strategy and goal, and what can we do to achieve that, and then what metrics report back to that. And you always need to go back and see where you are. So everybody gets reports, analytics, measurements, but they learn and they look different based off those objective strategy.
Yeah, that's a perfect segue, Katie, back into kind of my next question for the panel, and I'll kick it back to you briefly. It's about deciding which metrics are important. So when we talk specific to social media, let's narrow it down to social media rather than organization-wide goals and objectives. In social media, we're either looking at awareness, engagement, or conversion. And how do you decide for a client which of those things is the most important? We hear all the time that followers and reach is a vanity metric. But if you're trying to raise awareness, it's not. So how do you approach that?
I'm going to again, what is their goal and strategy? And a lot of times that seems like a very simple question, but the answer isn't that simple. And from agency side, a lot of clients are even misguided in what they feel they should focus on. They saw something online, they saw a competitor, oh, we need to go do that, and pause the brakes for a minute. Is what's best for your brand and your audience? What are you trying to achieve foremost? Do you want to go out and create brand awareness? You're gonna need to focus on that awareness bubble, right? Are you trying to increase website traffic? We're gonna be in the conversion or the click-through rate bubble. Emphasis on that. It doesn't mean you don't get anything from the 3 buckets. It means we are specifically focused on one of those 3 buckets, right? You still get all it, but we're going to put more weight on conversion or awareness depending on what that is. And a lot of times coming to deciding that is really having honest and with the client and getting down to bare bones. What are you actually trying to achieve? No, not what you liked. What at the end of the day hits the success level for you? And if at the end of the day you need to report youth in sales, then it's great to have awareness, and you've got to build up. You can't just go out and convert sales, right? And so again, you have to walk them through that process, if you will, of hey, let's start building awareness. Then let that audience tracking, and let's go in and do different types of campaigns, and let's add their email addresses and do some retargeting campaigns. They're a little bit more specific, especially in ag, where your overall reach is going to be very different compared to what we would call standard public reach and numbers. First of all, your audience size to begin with, right? So if you go out and you try to compare to national averages on what brands are doing, you're not even comparing, first of all, for agricultural clients. But going into, and again, you've got to get down to the very basics of what are you trying, and then what helps you goal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Lee, as an agency coach and putting on the hat, I guess, even if you're a freelancer, right? Or you are a small business running your own social media, when you're trying to determine or help that agency, help a client figure out what metrics are important to them, what advice do you have for them?
Well, everybody's always in it for, they want to, at the top of the list is always, in my mind, revenue producing metrics. Okay, so that's going to be whether it be link clicks, whether it be shares, whether it be engagement, whether it be lead form opt-ins, any number of those things. Basically, we call tofu. I think everybody here knows what tofu is, right? So anything that's driving top of funnel leads that then lead into proposals submitted, deal pipelines, transitions and things along those lines. I always focus on revenue producing metrics first, and then from there you can optimize and enhance the productivity of those revenue producing metrics. But it's best to always know why you're getting there. I actually own half of the lead generation platform called Agency Sonar, and in there, one of the views of it is called predictive analytics, and so it pulls in the web form submissions, it attaches it to their Google keywords, it attaches it to their history over the last, and so what it does is it paints a very clear picture, like an extremely clear picture of the history of what they did to get to giving you money or becoming a prospect, right? And so I always lean in that direction with my students aggressively, because that once you understand where your revenue is coming from, pretty much everything gets a whole lot easier from that point forward, in my opinion. So.
Great. Okay, Vanessa, with that, you don't have to give away secrets about your strategy of what you're trying to do with social, but how do you approach, what metrics are important for you at AFR?
Yeah, I definitely have to echo what Katie was saying. It really comes down to your strategy. What do you want to accomplish? And for AFR, being a corporate insurance company, we kind of approach that very differently. Our main purpose and our main goal is to sell a product, and we have various different products. And we all know the algorithms, they kind of hate you if you just try to push product all the time. So we really, whenever we're strategizing and looking at what metrics we want to report on, we've got to keep the algorithm in mind of, okay, our main purpose is to push product, but how can we do that in a way that we can still make ourselves presentable, still get brand awareness out there with social media? So we start really bare bones down at their website. Okay, what's our biggest analytics there that are our biggest conversions? You know, what is bringing in those leads that we can then pass on to an agent? We can only do so much. And then for us, the way that AFR is set up, the agent is what gets to sell. So what information can I obtain throughout their journey from social to the website, through form capture, through all of that, that I can give to the agent to make them most successful and make them more likely to close the sale? So we started the website and kind of work our way back through social media, making sure that all of our content is really prepped to get all of the information that we can to then pass on to those people. We kind of set ourselves up to be the digital salesman, but we can't really close it without actually giving it to the agent. So we start at the website, go back through social media, but the strategy is so important. You have to be realistic with what can you accomplish in the year, and maybe you can only do so much in 1 year, and you have actually a 5-year strategy to actually get where you want to go. And that's kind of where we're at now with AFR. Is we're kind of in a rebuilding area. So really, we have a long-term strategy to really get where we want and to see the analytics that we want to see.
All right, that's some really good discussion. I'm going to pause for a minute and point out a couple of things about the conversation that's happening in the community right now. So we've got some people commenting in the community, and I forgot to mention, but it's happening, even though I didn't mention it, that if you comment in the community today, you will get an office hour badge that will appear on your profile in the community. So we're gamifying it a little bit, trying to add some fun. So go ahead if you're listening. I'm going to say pop on over to socialmediapulse.info/office-hours. Here, I'll throw that up just for a second here temporarily. We're all in the bottom there. The QR code's a little obscured for a second. But that is the URL to go comment in the community. Join the fun, get that badge. It's a lot more fun. I mean, you can comment on social media. That's fine. I'm monitoring the comments there too. But go ahead and pop on over to the community. It's fun to see the conversation happen there. And if you have any questions, I am monitoring that in the community as well. So if there's burning questions that you have, whether you're watching the replay or you're watching it live, the conversation in the community lives on forever, and we'll be able to address that at any time, whether it's now or whether it is 2 months from now or whenever. It will live on in perpetuity. So that being said, okay, I want to dial it back for just a moment because we have members of our community with all ranges of experience in social media, all the way from Lee, who is coaching other agency owners how to be better at managing their business and managing social media for other people, and then people who are literally new to it, have never worked in social before. So some of the things that gets a little bit overwhelming when we talk about metrics are, what do they mean? So let's talk about, if you want to measure, we'll go through those different kind of objectives. If you want to measure awareness, and this is really for anyone on the panel, if you want to measure awareness, what are some of the metrics that you can look at that will tell you if you're increasing or growing awareness for your brand or your page?
I look at impressions. I look at impressions and reach. I also own an agency. This in about 3/4 in Alabama, and so I help to run that as well. And we have a product that we sell. It's called the Slow Burn campaign, and it's better than TV commercials. And so we use impressions and reach and frequency as it pertains to
Sure.
Yeah, aware of the normal stuff, I would assume. So.
Yeah, just getting it in front of as many people as you can, right? I'll add one. I think increasing followers is good. It's one that people call it a vanity metric if you're trying to grow your page, but as Katie mentions, until you have an audience who has the potential to see your content, you can't possibly convert those people. So increasing your followers or increasing page likes is another awareness objective or metric that can help you achieve awareness.
Yeah. And one of those things that go into and the awareness bubble, if you will, as far as impressions and reach, one thing we work on, especially for clients, if you will, that are in a growth stage or just starting out, or particularly, like I mentioned, we have some clients who just want to go out there and just want to have conversations and awareness into, and we look at what is the breakdown of reach versus non-followers, and that really is the base. Are we getting outside that, really growing that reach, or are we just getting cycled through? And so again, I think that's the beauty of metric. You can get down into a very granular level if you need to. So for clients that are just starting out, one thing that we specifically focus on is getting in there, looking at that. And Instagram is a great platform for this because you can measure it in store videos and regular page posts as far as they're here followers your content reached, and here's how many followers. And especially now, I think with the changes that Instagram going through, they went through their changes with the hashtags and all of that stuff, and really getting in to see, like, okay, does this topic increase my reach, and does adding these things and doing these features and doing these reels on my normal community range, and that kind of gives you a baseline to do more of this if we truly want to go. And absolutely, you start with reach and impressions, but again, what is your overall goal and objective? And you can even further if you want to on some of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. For us, definitely setting that baseline of, okay, we're growing, but is this legit growth, or is this just people, being people? We all have those nuances. We like, we follow, and we unlike and unfollow all the time, constantly. So making sure that you're drawing a really clear comparison and you're telling the true, full story of whether you have that bump, whether that's in followers or impressions. For us, we definitely track those followers, but then making sure that we're doing our due diligence to truly attribute that to the brand awareness campaign that we're running.
I'll kick it back to you, Vanessa. When we're talking about the next part of that funnel would be engagement. What engagement metrics are important to you? What do you like to measure when you're measuring engagement?
For us, one of the biggest things that we put out as far as content is our video. So we're looking at the engagement whenever it comes to video, as far as how long have they viewed it, they click on anything. We do, with corporate world, we do a little bit of clickbait, trying to see where we can get their clicks at. So yeah, the views are huge. Just making sure that we can see how long did they spend, where did we lose them at, because then we can really look at that content and see, okay, what is the most important part at the end, and we need to bump that up. Where's our selling point? Where are we losing the customers, and trying to bridge the gap between those two.
Great. Okay, and then back to the group at large again, when we talked at the bottom of that funnel, conversion. And that's where really, when we loop back to the very beginning of our discussion, we're talking about bottom lines, we're talking about ROI, and this is generally where the rubber meets the road there. So what are some important conversion metrics? And maybe to add a little twist to it, other than sales. Sales is the easy one, right? We know, someone's going to spend money with us, they converted. What are some other things that you like to measure that indicate someone has converted to whatever it is, the action that you want them to take?
Me first?
I think for us,
Go ahead. I wasn't sure.
No, I see. This is when I don't like to call on people, but then when I say open for everyone, and then it's sort of more
like, who
awkward.
answers?
So, yeah, Lee, I think I heard you first. What do you think? What, other than sales, what are some important conversion metrics?
I'm constantly looking for something what we call buyer identifiers, and there are certain actions that people will take when they are getting into what's called buy mode. There are three different buy cycles. One of them is tire kickers, one of them is in research, one of them is actually going to make a decision in the next 30, 45 and each prospect's actions will tell you where they're at in that buy cycle. And so I'm looking for people who are in the in-depth research phase and the buy mode. Tire kickers will give you their email address. People in depth research and buy mode will give you their phone number. So, yes, for the name and email, bounce them to prospect vetting, and if they put in the phone number and answer the questions, then that tells me that they are ready to make a buy decision, and that is one of the prereqs that we have before sales ever happens. That's just one example that we use a lot around.
Yeah. That's a great example. Someone who, and I'm going to kind of reiterate, it was cutting in and out a little bit for me. I don't know if it's like that for everyone on the stream. My internet might be a little wonky, but I think you mentioned, Lee, that if someone who is kind of a tire kicker or just maybe interested, they're going to give you their email address. Someone who's ready to buy is more willing to give you their phone number. And that's an indication that they're, but even before a sale, that they've converted and that they're in that, ICP of somebody who's ready to buy. I really, really like that. And I haven't thought that nuanced about specific fields on a form before. So thanks for that.
We all put if we're, looking to buy a Tesla, can't afford it, we'll go put our email address to build out our dream Tesla. If we're newlyweds looking to buy a house in 5 years, we research baby names and, all these different things, but we don't ever give a phone number because we don't want to bug them and we don't want to be bugged, right? But whenever we go to actually look at financing for that Tesla or actually look for paint for that new house, then we actually walk in the store or pick up the phone or give our phone number. So people lie with their words, but not lie with their actions. So monitor their actions for buyer identifiers and help you close a lot more deals. So.
I love that. Vanessa, for you, but other than sales, you're trying to sell product, generally trying to sell insurance, but what are some other things that you like to measure for conversion?
For us, we're trying to, like you said, buy a product, but then also in the world of insurance, you're selling a service. So, okay, we sold them, we have their policy, they have a claim, they come to the website, they submit their claim. The biggest thing where we're trying to get a conversion there is now a survey. What's your process like? How can we further help you? And so looking at, where are we losing them? Are we even getting them to take the survey? That is vital feedback that we need as a company in order to realign our processes, make sure that we're going good. So that's where we really look at, what is their click journey through the website? Is the form working? What areas are they overlooking on the form that they're not answering? And then at the survey, that NPS score is huge for us. We've got to get that. That's a huge marketing tool for us to be able to leverage. So for the survey section of it, is the questions, are they understandable? Is it too long? Is there a better delivery method we can give to that? And so just kind of how they fill out the form, if they submit it with additional comments, that opens up a whole lot of ideas and things that we can do better. And then it gives us the chance to have that conversation internally with the claims folks, with the website team, to really see how can we streamline this process to just be better and to provide a better service along with our products.
Mm-hmm. And with both of those things that Lee and you, Vanessa, have mentioned, they're actions that happen off social, right? We're pulling people through to a lead gen form and we're getting them to convert on that form. And so really just a click-through rate on those specific things that get them where you need them to go, and then let your web analytics take over from there, is probably a really important conversion metric as well. Here at our parent organization, AgoraPulse, ROI is really, really important to us too. And we know it's important to social media managers, which is why there's a whole feature in the AgoraPulse product dedicated to automatically tracking ROI. I know other tools help with that as well. So can't have a discussion without ROI without that becoming really, really forefront in my mind, and tracking, especially with UTM tracking. Let's shift the focus a little bit now. We're a little over halfway through the whole hour. Crazy to think about. Let's shift the focus to, we talked about actual numbers a little bit, but let's shift and talk about the reporting. How are we presenting metrics, whether it's for our boss, whether it's for our clients, whether it is for somebody else, other stakeholders, maybe a board of directors, and people who might be on different levels of understanding, etc., about reporting. So, first question, Katie, you touched on reporting a little bit in my kind of kickoff question. So, I'm going to kick it back to you. How often are you generally reporting for your clients?
On average, for our clients, a monthly report on average. Some get quarterly. As far as myself, I get weekly, and then I have obviously have alerts set. But as far as frequency, the average would be once, and that is to both view where we're at and then look ahead for what changes to make before the next month starts. And that's the most average and most common, I guess, frequency.
So let's talk a little bit about the differences between you're getting weekly reports and you're getting, even as they happen, notifications, and your clients are getting monthly reports. What are you presenting to your clients to distill it down for them generally?
So for our clients, it's a little different per client. We have some clients who literally walk in the door and I'm not a social media person. I don't understand social media on social media, but I understand from a business perspective that we should be there. Y'all handle it. Give me the nuts and bolts. And so on something like that, we will take a report and pair it to be very user friendly. And we will basically show them, here's this month on engagement, here's where we are this month, and then we do a trend line, right? So it's like, that's the other thing I think people get lost when you report too much. It's like, oh, we went down. You're going to have ups and flows and kind of a roller coaster, right? It's not going to be completely linear all the time. That's not what social media normalcy is, not always linear. So, we give them a trend line as well, baseline, to let them know. And we compare, month to current month to last year, especially something very seasonality like agriculture. It is very, very important to go back and compare seasonalities. It's not just month to month. It's a big, important season. What were we doing this time, working this time last year? So it varies. And some of those we pare it down. On other clients, we use a social media management platform, and it basically goes in and white label stuff. And since they already have access to go in there and see the content and approve it, and we have client communications that way, they are perfectly fine on just having that exported and emailed directly to them, and they review it. And most of the time on those level of clients, we already have monthly calls and weekly calls. We have weekly touch bases, and we just get on the phone first thing Monday. What's happening? Because social media is so fast paced. What's going on? What's coming this week? What changed from last week? Is there alerts? Does Russia go into war? There's all these things moving in social media, and so we touch base on that a little bit more frequently, right? And so on average, it's once a month. On client need to know basics, we pare that down. On clients that are a little bit more in depth and a little bit more full scope, export report, and I don't even go in and take the time to, I've set which metrics they get, and they get metrics from all three categories: awareness, engagement, or ROI and conversion. But and then I know we're going to be on a call next week, and whatever questions they have and whatever we need to talk through. And I don't use their hours to sit and finagle that report, because the numbers are the numbers we're going to talk. So it varies greatly. We have a standard across the board, but for some clients, I just need to show them where we're at compared to where we're going, and are we meeting those KPIs? It's a little bit more in depth. Hey, let's look at this sentiment. We touched on it a minute ago, then about conversion. And I think a big part that's not in conversion, because if you think about it, you have really good experiences. They're like, oh, this is experience, and they might tell one or two people. But when people have really bad experiences, everybody. So monitoring that sense and those things are a real big part of conversion, because what went wrong on those types of reports, I'm tuning in very much so into keyword community that we're monitoring. Who was community leaders in that community for this month, and what are they talking about? Community, listening to them, what we need from them in their conversations, right? I'm looking at those different things that really helps position that differently. So on those reports, they look very different from a basic, here's where we're going report. And again, that's going to be by clients that we go in and monitoring keywords. We're monitoring community. We are monitoring influencers in the community. We are monitoring handles. What are they talking about? What are they tweeting about? What are sharing? What is popular? And is our content not just with our audience we're trying to reach, but that community as a whole? And that's very important for culture. Things like the drought, it affects everybody in agriculture. How it affects a cattle grain is very different from how it affects an implement. So we might have an audience for an implement that's different from an audience for cattle, but our community as a whole is talking about a topic. And so we dive into audience versus some of those reports depending on the client.
Okay. That is a lot. And I think what you just underscored there for me, Katie, is something that I like to make a distinction between metrics are the numbers and analytics are when you add analysis to those numbers and it takes a human to actually do analytics. So that's definitely, you're taking the metrics and you're turning them into analytics for your clients. Vanessa, I'm sure it's different for you. You're not working necessarily with clients. I know that you're reporting and accountable to different groups of people. So, what does reporting look like for you? What are you generally reporting on, and what do those look like? And how often are you doing reports, Vanessa?
Yeah, so we're in a totally different ballgame because I report directly to the CEO and then held accountable by the board of directors. So they all, whenever they come in, today is actually a board day. They come in, they have an agenda, start at 8 a.m. They aren't done till 7 p.m. and it is go, go, go. They don't care about the warm and fuzzies. They don't have time to hear me explain everything. So our reporting is really down and dirty. They don't speak the lingo. They aren't in this all day, every day. So whenever I do reporting for them, I make sure that I provide a reference sheet. So whenever they see bounce rate or impressions, they can actually read for themselves what it is without me having to take up my valuable time explaining that. But then really what they want to know is how are we on the KPIs? We always set our KPIs every year for the following year. And so we're constantly following up on those every single month. So where are we at? And then dollars spent. And they want to look at our paid versus organic posts. They don't care what the content looks like, but they want to see those metrics. Where are we at? To make sure that we have a pretty even split between the two. Or if we don't have an even split, then why is that? And then for me to sell them, the biggest part of my job in reporting to the board is to sell them on social media. They're all older. We're in the world of insurance. They don't really 100% grasp social media. So it's my job to then sell them of here's these analytics. Here's why it's important. So we do a very, very, very bare bones reporting to it. Now with my CEO, we can kind of get into the weeds a little bit more. So I report to him our web analytics and social media analytics on a bi-weekly basis when we do our touch bases. So I compile everything. He reviews the content, make sure that we're good to go, that we're in line with the overall strategic business plan that we have going on. We look at all those analytics. I give him a year to date. And then give them a comparison. Okay, this is what we ran last year as far as a campaign. Here's what we're considering this year. Here's our budget. And the biggest thing with him is just making sure that the numbers are legit. We don't want to lie to ourselves and paint us better than we are. If we lost followers, then he wants me to tell him that, and he wants me to explain why. If we dropped down in SEO, why is that? Why is the competitor beating us? If people are out there and they're angry and they're upset about something, why are we not in those conversations? So making sure that I have everything prepped ready for him to go. And then I get reports weekly, just like Katie, on all of them. I have those alerts set up so that way I can start compiling them. Every Friday, I go through all of my analytics and make sure that I pull them all in to prep for that CEO touch base that I have going on.
All right. So I'm going to have a quick, we lost Katie. We'll see if she is able to get back, but I'm going to pause for a moment with my obligatory shout out to, if you have questions about this, whether you're in the community, you're watching live, you're watching the replay, you're watching on social, you're watching live, you're watching the replay, go ahead and drop those comments and questions there and we can loop back to them. Lee, so last but not least, when you are telling agencies about how often they should report, what they should report, what those reports should look like, what's your advice to them?
The most important thing is to get what's called a rhythm or a cadence in place and establish that with your clients based upon, again, their goals. So if it's a $2 million a year ad spend budget, and next thing you know, you probably need to meet with them twice a week to make sure you're not dropping 50 grand and Google ads by accident before we look at it next week, right? So again, I think the type of back to Katie's point, I think the type of client has a lot to do with this. There are two primary categories that I coach my students on focusing on, and that is what's called real-time KPIs and Reconcile Kpis. And this kind of goes to, I think Vanessa made this point a while ago about how we have to trust the numbers, and he's probably looking at those numbers in real time. And we have real-time data dashboards now, so click-through rates and all this real-time data. It's wonderful, and you can make day-to-day tactical decisions on that, but you would never make long-term strategic decisions on that. You always go through a reconciliation process. So what I try to get my students to do, and what we do with at my agency with the lead generation platform, is we have real-time lead notifications and real-time KPIs. That's to help to build value throughout the month as we're going. Hey, you got a new lead. Hey, you got this. And so we're always seeing the brand in a very high value, high touch kind of way. And then at the end of the month, we meet up with them to show them the final numbers. Hey, you got this. You got them the whole process. So a monthly cadence is the most important thing. Establish a rhythm that you do religiously, and you can do that per client. But most importantly is that you must report these back to the clients to validate your hard work. If not, after about 2-3 months, they will start looking elsewhere, and they will find someone who does give them the reporting. You can bank on that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's power in the numbers, but unless you're communicating that power back to the clients, they're not going to understand. And so we've got to help them, and it helps yourself in the process.
Client, without data and without clear and concise, transparent communication, the client will sit there and fester. And when the client festers, they will start researching. And so therefore, Google and all your competitors are going to define what you're supposed to be doing if you don't define it up front. So I would suggest you define it up front and track it vigorously. So.
And when we talk about reporting, there's several ways to do it. You can use native tools, and you can build your own reports. You can use like a social media management platform tool, or you could even use a third-party analytic tool. So I'm going to ask the panel at large, but I'll start with you, Lee, about what are some of your preferred tools for running and presenting reports?
Again, we have an in-house tool, so I'm biased to that one, but it's called Agency Sonar, agencysonar.com. It's an enterprise level B2B lead generation analytics platform that pulls in, again, associates your web form data to your visitor data to historical data, go back 3 years and keywords, and you just, like I said, predictive analytics pulls it all together. So it paints such a clear picture of engagement, opt-ins, and again, the real-time lead notifications and things along those lines. I am a very, very big fan of any kind of reporting dashboard a client can go in and look at almost on a whim, because that helps to offset that festering, some of that. I don't know why, but a lot of agencies feel like if we're doing their job, they'll see it, it'll be okay, and that's just not how this works. Okay, they need to see that you are working for them. Okay, and so Graphly sits on top of Fusionsoft, and ActiveCampaign is a wonderful reporting tool. Wicked Reports is another phenomenal reporting tool. Sonar.com is another phenomenal reporting tool. Those are the tools, and there's about 1 million of them out there nowadays. Again, it's going to boil down to your agency establishes that cadence, and that rhythm, and that process, and then the tools come in and help support that cadence and that intellectual capital. I think Ruth was saying about, those are metrics, those are numbers, and then you do get analytics, but you don't get analysis. And that what they're looking for is what the hell does this mean? Vanessa was saying, or somebody was, the board of directors are like 65 years old. They don't know what the hell Facebook is, right? So they need someone to translate that. So show them why you're an agency owner and a subject matter expert. Show them why they're giving you a lot of money, basically. Be a pro.
Yeah. It goes back to, that reminds me, Lee, of some just like project management principles, not to get off topic here, but when I used to teach in a college classroom, and with project management, it's like, if your client or your teammate has to ask a question, it means you've already got a problem. So I like that idea of empowering a client to look at stuff ad hoc if they so choose. Some clients don't. Some clients probably don't even look at the monthly reports that you send them, but as soon as you stop sending them, they might start having questions, right?
Yeah. The number one complaint I used to ask my project managers is, I better get one complaint from every one of you, and that is that your clients better call me and tell me your project manager needs to leave me the hell alone. They're all over me. They leave me alone. They're talking to me every day. They're asking what they can do for me every day. They're sending me emails every day. I'm like, as soon as the client ask you, tell your project to leave me alone, you got them. The labor point's yours. If they ever say that we didn't do their job, I'm like, dude, you told me. Shut up. In other words, kill them with kindness. So overwhelm them with being a professional, and you're going to find out that's going to help a lot in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Okay, I saw Katie shaking her head a little bit there about the, like when clients have questions, that's generally not a good idea. What tools do you like to use when you're reporting back to clients? How do you build your reports? What tools do you use?
Well, we have an enterprise management software platform that was an agency, and so we can apply that to all the clients. One thing that I get asked for a lot, especially in the agricultural community, as far as that, is what should I go with? And my answer is always what works your budget, because there are metrics from free to enterprise level. And as long as you can understand, again, part of that analytics, how to use the tools. Let's personally do not like Meta, right? Like it is, but if you need a free software platform, Meta does provide tools and stuff to have at least some of those baseline metrics, right? So is it my preferred method? No, but if it's what works in your budget, then use the tools you can use to your best advantage. And there are, 5, even 6 years ago, there was like 2 or 3 players on the field as far as that could do actual metrics and into listening tools. And now there are programs, again, from free to enterprise, that incorporate listening with metrics. It used to be used with enterprise level accounts. So everything updates. The other thing I tell my team is, well, we may be with this platform right now. Just like everything else and all the algorithms update, we should be reevaluating the plan every so many years and comparing them and doing demos with other ones out there, because prices won't change. Enterprise level 5 years ago was very different from enterprise level today. And seeing what's out there. The program that we use now didn't even exist 5 or 6 years ago, and now it's out there and it does all the tools and it works. It has that client interface login, so we use that. But there are, again, do your research. Everyone offers demos. The tool that you can use that works in your budget is the best tool. I'm not out there trying to rep a particular brand. I think there are ones that I personally like and don't like, but everything has a personal preference. What works for me doesn't work for somebody else. There's so many options from free to blow your money, and find what works for you.
Yeah. So, and Vanessa, this one's for you. Okay, preferred tools, but then also back to the group. Are you just using tools, or are you just using reports that are built by a tool, or do you have to still manually run some reports? So Vanessa, you first. What tools do you like to use?
So we recently went through a whole restructure within the marketing department. And so something that we use and that since we've adopted it, a lot of the company has jumped on is Hubspot. So our sales team has gotten integrated with that, customer service. We have our CRM built there. We have it built to our policy system, so we get real-time policy data. We can keep everything really organized. But HubSpot is really where we can manage our social media, our website analytics, ad campaigns. We can track our emails. All of our marketing dollars and numbers are funneled through there. So that's been really great. It makes reporting super easy. We can set up the hierarchy. So, I get reports weekly. I get them emailed directly to my inbox. I go in as well, but then we also set it up to where other leaders across the company can log in as well if they so choose. So as far as, building the reports or not, what's great about HubSpot is they had a lot of really good dashboards already pre-built, a lot of reports that are really plug and play. I wanted a more granular feel, and there were certain things that I wanted to really hone in. So I went in and I built a lot of my own custom reports of things that I wanted my department to really look at a very, very micro level. Now, nobody else has access to that because it's way over their head. But I know for our sales channel as well, with their HubSpot, they've gone in and built some reports that are custom to what they need. So a lot of the reports that are out there in a lot of these systems are kind of plug and play. You can take it and it'll do what you need to. It just depends on how into the weeds do you want to get, and does it make sense for you, and do you have the time to build out the reports, and then do you have the time to really sort through all of the data that you get with that? Because often what I find is with those custom reports, you get a lot of numbers, and you've got to take the time to sort through it and make sure that it's all legit and that you understand it before taking it up to the next level.
Mm-hmm. So when you're reporting to your board, do you take those custom reports and show it to them, or are you like going into another tool and building out graphs or slides and things like that?
Yeah, I take that into another tool and really build out very visual things that they can look at a glance, know what I'm talking about, or just take in just the bare numbers.
Yeah. Lee, I see you shake your head, right? You're going to have to build some custom bespoke things. You can't depend on a tool to do everything for you, right?
Well, and I shake my head at the term visualization, and visualization is very important because the ability to take that very complex stuff down and again, show it to somebody who's got a 10-hour day and they won't be back in that building again for, whatever, next quarter, and they got to understand a lot of data really quickly. Visualization is the way to do it. So anytime you can take this kind of data and put it into a chart, whatever it might be, however you want to visualize it, is a very, very good idea for kind of at a glance understanding something.
Katie, do you have additional thoughts on that?
Just echo what they said. For those big time things like that, I take it out of there where it's just a number. For visual people, like Lee said, if I have a crazy metric analytic, we did some event reporting not too long ago. We did a social thing. We want people to have fun at a little GIF photo booth. We would put it out on social, and so we were measuring the reach of just that event, and it was crazy, like 1,000+% reach, and then 2 days it was there. Like, putting that is one thing, but if I can visually show them where we were at with an arrow and a number and put that on a sheet of paper, they grab onto that so many. So for us, I put it in design because we have a design team. For other people, they might Canva, etc., or do something that way. But yeah, on those types of things, absolutely. On run of the mill, keep right up. I keep it that way for me. But if I need to, and it's time to let people wow them, if you will, or I've got a CEO who's like, I just need the basics, we take it out of there and we put it in somewhere where it's visually appealing and they can digest it by skim.
All right. I can't believe we're rounding out the hour. So just really quickly, each of you, if you were going to impart a final piece of wisdom to somebody, whether they're new or they're a veteran to analytics and reporting, what's your biggest piece of advice? Katie, I'm going to kick it back to you.
It seems like a bear, but you're not going to sit on the sidelines and being scared. You gotta dive in and somewhere.
Good advice. Lee.
Reporting and metrics are just like marketing and advertising. Once you start them, they have a beginning, but they don't have an end. And if you're doing it right, then you would never, ever, ever want to stop either one of them. So start small. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
I love that. I use that little one bite at a time eating an
All the
elephant analogy all the time. Yep.
My daughter and my coaching students, I use it all of the time. Baby, I was like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So.
Yep. Vanessa, how about you? Last final piece of advice.
With anything marketing communications, we're selling ourselves, and the way to sell is with the numbers. So make sure that you have the numbers to make sure that it's why you should make that effort, but then make sure you have the numbers to back it up, and don't get overwhelmed by it. But sell yourself, and the numbers are the way to do it.
All right. This has been a great conversation, a lot of similar ideas coming at things from different angles. So I think there's some similarities that we can think about when we talk about metrics and analytics and reporting for social media. But then obviously, like most things with social media, it's not one size fits all. So to reiterate something Lee said earlier, my final piece of advice is find the cadence and the rhythm that works for you. And that's that first bite. The first bite is to find that rhythm and that cadence that works for you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you to my panelists. Thank you to my community team that is having a great conversation, awarding badges left and right in the community during this live chat. It's been a ton of fun. We will be back next week, a week from today on Thursday, back at 11 a.m. Central. And Phyllis is going to be talking about unique marketing channels specific to e-commerce clients. So if you're a social media manager and you're working on e-commerce platforms, she's got some really good ideas for unique marketing channels. So thanks for joining us. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and let us know in the comments, and we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody.